Your media, where you are. Plant Power with Mawethu will show you the chemistry of life through food that goes from the ground to the body.
Yeah. Today I'm talking to a three-time world record holder, an entrepreneur, a TEDx speaker, a plant-based global adventurer, a world champion triathlete, Kate Strong. So she says, whatever the adventure, whether it's climbing a mountain, whether it's riding a bike, world records are definitely in sight. Welcome to Plant Power with Mawethu. How are you doing?
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me on the show.
Yes, great stuff, man. Excited. You actually been following. I've been following your whole story. I've been following your podcast, and I think there's obviously common ground when it comes to being a triathlete. There's common ground in being a philanthropist. There's common ground in the whole plant-based lifestyle. So yeah, please, the stage is all yours. Tell us, who's Kate Strong? And by the way, congratulations on your recent grueling 24-hour, three-time world record.
Thank you.
Congrats
so much.
on that. That was quite inspirational to watch.
Yeah, it was very.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, and as you know,
the platform's all yours.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and as you know, it was only 3 weeks ago that I cycled for 24 hours on a bamboo bike. That's a static bike, and broke 3 world records in the making. Obviously, 100% fueled by plants, and it was brutal. As I said, it was hugely painful, but I think it's really important to lead by example. And I think that's one of the lessons I've learned through my entire life. And yeah, thanks so much for giving me the stage, Mawethu. Where I'll start is, I suppose, at the beginning. I'm originally from Wales in the United Kingdom. My parents did spend 4 long, beautiful years in Pretoria in South Africa. So they have very fond memories. We've got loads of photographs of their time there as well. So I absolutely adore your country just by osmosis from my parents' stories of their youth when they first got married.
Yeah.
And I was forced by my parents to go to university and to sort of fit this mold, this pattern of being a successful person, what they thought was success, which was to study engineering. So I did go to university. I have a double master's in mechanical engineering, but my little rebellion to them was to study my master's in France. So I did attend a French university, and I did my dissertation in Italy, based in the fashion industry, working in machinery there. And it was obvious to anyone except my parents that I am not a traditional person. I'm not a normal girl per se, that would have been happy living a tick box lifestyle, get a job, get a partner, get a dog, get a house, that sort of thing. I knew that in my heart, I was up to adventuring, I was up to freedom and exploring the world. So straight after university, I went traveling. I chose Latin America because I wanted to learn Spanish, and spent about a year traveling there, living with the indigenous tribes, learning their ways of rhythms, working with nature rather than against it. Just to note, at this time, I was still omnivore. I was still eating meat and drinking milk and thinking that was what we called a healthy lifestyle. A little bit of everything is what my mum used to say, and that's how I lived.
Yep.
And it was only until about 2012. So after traveling for a year, I came back to the UK to still try and fit into normality. I felt I had to conform to help my parents. It was like I always needed to sort of satisfy what other people might think of me. So I worked briefly in aerospace, and I'm not at all an engineer by personality. So that lasted just 2 years. And I emigrated to Australia. I went there with a boyfriend at the time, and we got into hospitality. So while he had a full-time job, I ran businesses on the side, a Subway franchise. I'm not sure if you know that in South Africa. It's this American chain. I also bought an old building and converted it into a guest house and restaurant. And that was middle of a World Heritage Park. So completely surrounded by wilderness, by kangaroos in the garden, by possums in the trees. And it slowly started to open up this question of, what am I doing? You know, why am I on this planet? Because I truly believe that we all live this sort of predictable lifestyle at the moment. If we look around, tomorrow will predictably look like today. And I'd fallen into that routine of taking away the curiosity of life, taking away the excitement of what tomorrow may bring. And it was only 7 years living this predictable life in Australia, every day waking up like Groundhog Day, that I started to say, there's got to be more. There has to be more to this. What makes my heart sing? What makes Kate Strong unique in the world? And unfortunately, I call them cliff edge moments. So my cliff edge moment was my partner of 9 years left me just 6 days before my wedding. And that's when the alarm clock woke me up, and I said, I have to start taking action today rather than waiting for life to tell me what to do. Because that's what I was waiting for, is, when I have more money or when I have more time, that's when I will take up running or look at my health, rather than actually taking now as the impetus to start my changes. So after he left me, I was quite broken. I was quite self-doubtful. I didn't really know who I was. Over those 9 years, he'd put me down. He'd just little things, but it started to add up to me not having a lot of confidence. So I really needed some resetting. And the thing that gave me that was my nature, running around in the forests of Australia, just spending time away from my phone, away from the laptop, away from what people expected of me. And it started to really open up. I call it the world of action, like what I'm actually doing and also what I'm saying about it. Because I say I'm fit and healthy, but my action was going to the pub and having one too many drinks in the evening, and a steak and chip meal or an unhealthy barbecue more often than not. So I was saying I was fit and healthy, but I wasn't doing fit and healthy. And I started to realize I was living two worlds. The world I thought I was, this amazing woman who was doing so much, goodness to myself as well as the world, and the reality, the harsh truth of, I am not healthy. I cannot run a mile or a kilometer. I am also killing my local environment by eating really bad toxins, producing big piles of waste because everything's wrapped up in plastic and all of this. And I realized I had to start in combining both of these worlds. Does this make sense to you at the moment?
Yep.
Yeah. So that was that's what started me on this journey. I never knew what vegan was. I didn't know what plant-based was. I just wanted to bring my two worlds together, and I started to be healthy. Like, what actually is in my food? How do I feel after drinking a pint of milk? Actually, I noticed I had psoriasis. My lungs were phlegmy. I couldn't run properly because I was quite choked up with stuff in my lungs. After eating meat, my legs felt healthy as well, very heavy as well. So I was like, well, this isn't healthy to me. I need to start eating food that makes me feel alive, that doesn't make me want to have an hour siesta after eating it and need to lie down to digest. So I started to experiment with my food. And I used my sport as a way of testing if it was good for me or not. If I could run faster or recover quicker, I'd eat more of it. If it made me feel sluggish or I wanted to, stop and I could feel the bile burning my throat, I'd eat less of it. And before I knew it, I was completely eliminated all meat and especially all dairy. And we had to Google it, my friends, to find out what I was, because I didn't know I was vegan. But we were like, who is a person who doesn't eat meat and meat? So that's sort of my life in a nutshell that brought me up to being plant-based.
Great stuff. And then I know in one of your videos you mentioned that you grew up quite athletic. I know about the whole javelin story in high school. So you being vegan on the one part, in a foreign country, and then there is this story where you broke off something that was quite dear to you, and then you talk about also having to please different worlds. So there's Kate to the society, there's Kate to your parents, there's Kate to So it actually becomes an extremely pedantic yet necessary journey where you actually have to find your true essence. You have to find something that gets you to actually keep the fire burning inside of you, something that sets your soul on fire. If I could put it better. But what was that one moment where Kate said, "I'm close to finding Kate"? I mean, it's not just an overnight journey,
No, you're completely right. I needed that kick up the bottom to realize my life couldn't keep continuing that way. But it is like adding a drop of water in a cup every single day. It is a habit we need to force onto ourselves initially. And you are right in that a lot of us play different roles. Kate, who goes to work every day, might be very professional and introverted. Kate at home might be a completely different way. And it's tiring because all of these little roles of Kate Strong, we're forgetting the one in the middle, which is, as you said, our true essence, our purpose, our real sense of being.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be wonderful if we didn't have to wear different masks and different faces and be different for everyone? I'd love it if my grandma could meet my boss, could meet my employees, could meet everyone, and I wouldn't worry about, oh my gosh, what are they going to say? They won't recognize me. Kate is Kate everywhere she goes. So again, over time, I learned to stop playing the roles that people expected of me. It takes a while, especially with people closest to us. So my parents, they're still learning about who is really Kate rather than the good daughter that they wanted. So it does take time and persistence, but I think bringing me into being purely myself and following what makes my heart sing has really helped me find that momentum and find that growth in my life that I don't think I would have had if I was still separating myself out in these different roles.
No, that's actually very important what you mentioned. I think I found myself in a similar setup where I actually discovered endurance activities as an escape. Where when you get on the bike, you go and cycle on the tire. It's not just about that. It's actually an escape from the crazy rush of the world, and then you start discovering other parts that were hidden or that were not known to you, and then you actually start introspecting and asking yourself, but who is this person? If I have to look within Mawethu, I can tell you, if you told me 10 years ago, I'd be sitting here today doing and talking about what I'm talking about today, I'd tell you that you're crazy. It's amazing how these things actually work themselves out. But there is that point that actually gets you to say, I'm jumping out of the hole, I'm getting out of the shell. But most importantly, I need to find this person so that there's one person that I present out there to the world, Yeah. And fortunately, from your bad situation, we found a philanthropist. We found a leadership coach. We found, an ethics coach. We found a plant-based global adventurer. That for me is amazing. Are there any challenges though about specifically being this plant-based global adventurer? Because I can tell you, growing up in Africa, I'm from a tribe that associates the slaughtering of animals, meat, with its true essence. It's fortunately or unfortunately how it is ancestrally since time immemorial. We can't track it. There's probably data that proves that we didn't always eat meat, but it's something that we evolved over time to eating. What were your challenges? One, you're in a foreign country, you're in Australia, and any trolling that you might have actually have to deal with in the process?
I'm very blessed. I have not had any trolls per se reach out, basically negatize my journey and my choices. But I think it's because I'm vehemently positive. I don't judge people. I don't judge myself. That's a learned behavior. I don't judge myself, so I don't project judgment on anyone. I don't care what you do as long as you're doing it consciously. I hold the mirror up so people can see our true actions. And if you're okay with that, carry on. I'm not here to say what is right and what is wrong. I am not playing that righteous role, but I will make you see actions always equal consequences. My actions always create a consequence. My inaction creates a consequence too.
Yeah.
So I need to own all of that space. And if people are actions killing animals and they are okay with the consequences, that's their choice. And however much I'd love to change the world, I can't do it by force.
No, of course.
I can only do it by compassion and holding the space for people to see what they're doing. And I think that what the example you've given is a very big minority of meat eaters. The vast majority, the 95, 99% of the world, don't even know where their food is coming from, don't know how it's processed. And processed means put in a cage, fed in the dark, and then culled. So,
Yep.
we need to see that process. So the 99% of people who aren't connected to what a fillet steak looks like when it's actually alive, those are the people that I hold the mirror up to with compassion, because it took me a while. It took me a while to wake up. And I made mistakes along the way. Even as a vegan, I still had cravings. I still, emotionally, when I felt down, my go-to food was actually milk and cheese, because that was my emotional comfort zone. So it took me a long time emotionally to let go of the food as much as intellectually. So I that's all I can do for other people is, here's the truth. This is what you're creating in the world. If you're okay with that, then I'm okay with that. But I'll still hold the space for a better world for all. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's all I can really offer to people is awakening, open their eyes, and also a hand to hold and walk with along a journey of bettering ourselves every single day.
No, perfect. Great stuff. So the one thing that stands out from all the podcast, the live sessions that I've listened where you said something distinct and very that important, that resonates with me, where you say how you become accountable is that if you are going to get on something or embark on a challenging journey, you tweet about it, you post about it, so that, you've already committed to something, I did something similar last year. Out of a moment of insanity, I woke up one Sunday morning. I think it was in mid-July I think it was in August last year. I went on Facebook and I said, I am going to train for 9 weeks to do a double marathon in one day to prove the benefits of a plant-based diet.
Mm.
The message that I wanted to spread was that this lifestyle will not kill you of protein deficiency, will not kill you of iron deficiency, as people claim, the lack of nutrients. This lifestyle actually enables great athletic ability. So I put this on Facebook, and that post alone had more than 200 likes and reactions and comments. So I knew that I was accountable.
Yeah.
And then I got people to buy into the idea of madness. I got endorsements on board to back this whole initiative. There was media around the whole thing. So there was no backing down.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I had to do it. I knew, look, one thing I knew is that I am going to do it because naturally, one, I'm an extremist by nature and I've got strong will. That's one thing I know. So I've got those two traits. But scientifically, people say, but you need to train for a minimum of 40 weeks. I only had 9 weeks to run 84.4 kilometers I've never run 42 kilometers before then. The longest I've run before I went to Facebook to post this was actually 30 kilometers. I've never run a full marathon in my entire life. So you can imagine the amount of pressure I've put myself under. And then boom, there I was. I started training. But fortunately, I had actually aligned myself with people who helped me train. And these are people who had completed ultra marathons. So that worked in my favor. But I'm coming back to your point where you say you have, when you do that, that's what accountability to you becomes. You're saying you tweet about it, you actually commit yourself to it. But it also proved to you that there's this whole thing of mind over matter, like whatever you put your mind to, it's almost like, for me, this thing is almost becoming like a religion where I because it's about me. It's about setting personal goals. It's about always stretching myself, because it's not just about me training for a race. Basically, for me, it's like I'm training for life. A race is tough. Life gets tough.
Yeah.
A race is tough, but life is tough. You train yourself for all the challenges that are going to come your way. And if you triumph during the race, mind over matter, then definitely whatever life throws your way, actually, you apply the same principle, because I don't belong to any religion. So there has to be something that drives me, there has to be. So this kind of drives me, this kind of, or maybe I could say almost like it's becoming almost like a philosophy, something that I am starting to swear by, And then there was Kate Strong, who then decides that she wants to do a triathlon.
Yeah, very true. And I'm just laughing because you're summing up exactly how I deal with all my challenges as well. And by the way, a double marathon is amazing. So well done. That is epic. I've never run that far. So congratulations.
Thank you.
If we find our why, the how will work itself out. If you didn't, because you wanted to demonstrate and you had a strong passion for plant-based, becoming plant-based, that's your why. That will never change. That's our North Star or South Star if you're in South Africa. But the how, how can I train? How am I going to discover this? How about my nutrition? That will all become apparent over time. But we just need to find the why initially. I think the world today focuses far too much on how are we going to do it? And we're always looking down at our feet. Your inspiration comes from above. So start asking the why questions. And you're right, after my breakup, I needed something for me. And I'd always had a dream of doing a triathlon, similar to I know what you're going to be doing early next year. I wanted to become this Ironman, which is what, 4.8 kilometer swim, 180 kilometer cycle, followed by the marathon, 42.2 kilometer run. Run. Yeah, I said run. Sorry, got confused. So I've always wanted to do this Ironman, and I just committed to it. I remember the day. I had just finished a 10-kilometer run, and I said to my little village of 2,000 people, I'm going to do a triathlon. And somebody asked me, who was a personal trainer, well, how fast do you want to finish it in? And my answer was, well, what's the world record? Or how fast is the finisher? And the silence I was met with, I could have heard a pin drop from the other room. And people started to laugh a little bit, going, Kate, there is no chance you will ever be a world champion. You have asthma, you have a full-time job as well. I'm running my guest house at the same time. You can barely finish 10 kilometers without wheezing. Forget it. Yet, that was my why. I really wanted to do something for me. And I teach this with my clients as well. Never put a glass ceiling on our potential. I had no idea how high I could go. So I have to aim for number one, purely to find out my own potential. I'm not attached to the gold medal. I don't care if I get it or not. But if I aim for 10th, what if my potential was 5th? I will never know how far I could go. So I have to be honest to myself, always aim for the top. And naturally, I'll find my way to my natural level. But that was my why, was to re-find myself. So I started training. I used to get up at 4:00 in the morning to train before my work. So I worked 7 days a week. I started at 7:30 in the morning. So I train in the morning, finish work at 6 p.m., 7 days a week. And I'd then get on my bike or put on a head torch and run in the evenings. And I made it happen. I made it work. And so within, let me just think, that was February 2013. By October 2013, I'd completed my first proper half Ironman. The following month, I was national champion, number one in the UK, number one in Australia for my age group. And that's when people started to notice. The community, the village of 2000 started to go, my golly, we gave up on you 6 months ago, but you're every day turning up 4:00 in the morning, running, cycling or swimming. You are actually committing to this. So I was vegan by then, and even the local butcher put a little sign in his window to say, go Kate. So I was so happy to see that. So the entire community started to realize that anything is possible if we dream. And as you know, within 14 months, in my 8th ever triathlon, I went to China. My community crowdfunded because I had no money to get there. So they paid for me to go. And I won the race. I was number one in the world for my age group. So what an amazing journey in 14 months.
And imagine if everything had worked out how you thought it would, we wouldn't have Kate, the world champion.
Exactly. No, not at all. But do you know what was even better for me? It was fine. I achieved my level. And I never qualified for Ironman World Championships. I want to just own that. I was long distance world champion. That is my level. Ironman, I could not find anything deeper in me to get to that elite level. But I'm super happy because I never capped my potential. But in the village, other people started to do things. A gentleman in the village entered the ultra marathon around Mont Blanc, the UTMB, 169 kilometers. He'd always wanted to do it, but at over 50, he thought he never would. He did it. I inspired him to not give up on his dream. Somebody else started to go pro cycling as well. So they then got a pro cycling contract from a local community village, from a local team as well. So I started to see other people lighting their fires in them and finding themselves as well. And that was really exciting for me.
You just never know who's looking.
Yeah.
When you do the training, when you do the training, when you do the talking, you just never know who you're inspiring. And once it's done, and then you can't give up. You must just continue, because once you give up, you don't know how many people you're going to let down. We just become that fire to those who need the bit of combustion around them. That's remarkable, Kate. I think I've shared with you. I know your story. I know the story of Rich Roll, who I hope to also one day interview. But this just proves that no one knows your life story, one, but no one can actually say to you, this is where your story ends, Kate. You are the driver. You are responsible for who Kate is going to be in the end, because it's decisions that you must take. You talked about the why. It's there's the why, and then obviously to implement, it's the how. But it all starts with you actually saying, this is what I want. Whether if it's a personal dream, but you're definitely out there to inspire somebody. I was inspired by somebody. The person who inspired me to this journey keeps talking to me about it and says, you know what, you're doing great. He says, I inspire him. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? There's no way. You're the one who got me here. So there's no way I can inspire my mentor. But we just never know the impact. We just don't understand how deep we touch people. We're gonna go back to the endurance part of things, but I want us to get to two things: ethics and the planet.
So very small subjects then.
Yeah. You're quite passionate about that too. I am transitioning because I'm starting to understand that I'd be doing an injustice if I were to say I'm just a plant-based enthusiast. There's so much around this lifestyle. There's so much positive things, not just about me personally, my surroundings, the people around me. Let's just quickly unpack on that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to when we start becoming more conscious, more aware, not just of ourselves, but of our environment and our surroundings and community we live in, to start seeing how we can help others. And when I mean help, I don't mean do things for people. I don't mean fix a problem. I mean empowerment, the true essence of help. Because I believe that everyone has got the strength within them to be their greatest selves. They've just lost the vision along the way. So we're here to make sure that they reignite themselves. And I think a big part of me being plant-based is my environmental footprint. As I keep saying, I love nature. I really feel it's not just a place I live in or take from, but she nourishes me. She allows me to thrive in summer and in the sun, and also take time of reflection in winter. And even more so through the pandemic we've all experienced in the world. It's also something to completely respect, and we should stop taking for granted, because in essence, it's part of us. Without nature, we would not exist. So if we stop treating it as a separate entity and start treating it as part of our family, I think there'd be a lot more respect. So part of who I'm becoming, because it's an ongoing journey, just as you said, it's about honouring the environment, and it's about honouring the communities I live within as well. And that also means holding the mirror up to acknowledge the privileges I have purely by the location I live in or the colour of my skin. There are certain doors that are open, and also gender and other socioeconomic doors as well. But for me, it's about, as transparently as possible, doing my best for as many people, as many sentient beings, animals, as well as the environment as possible. And as I keep saying, like similar to the background, it's about action and consequence. We can still live a thriving life. We can still have a business. We can still travel. We can still enjoy ourselves without damaging other people and without damaging the environment.
Yep.
So that's part of my mission, is to make sure that I can still do world records. I can still go on vacations. I can still live a great life. I don't have to, wear a tie-dye t-shirt and live in a cave and become a hippie. We can still do that, but we have to do this with the consciousness and the respect of what we're actually taking. One example I bring is I actually have a little team that works for me. And one guy who works is actually based in the Philippines. And he worked for me he asked for $2 an hour. And I doubled it to $4 because I didn't feel $2 was right. And again, this is me being as transparent as possible. And 2 years ago, I had a revelation that I'm actually creating the rich-poor divide, because I'm taking advantage of his good nature by charging so little because he lives in the Philippines. And as soon as I realized that I'm actually creating this divide in countries, basically, I put him on British salary, because just because he lives in a different country doesn't mean he should be denied my legal right of payment as well.
Yep.
And that isn't to sort of big up me, but that's just an awareness I've had that I was actually contributing to a societal divide within the community of the world that I was taking advantage of. So I really, as a plant-based conscious being, started to really evaluate, where else in my life am I not asking deeper questions to find out, what's going on behind the scenes? How am I actually contributing negatively to something that I didn't know about? One example is banking. A lot of British banks still fund the oil and gas and also military. I'm actually contributing to some of the problems in the world that I'm protesting against. So where can I actually store my money in banks? Which banks are the most ethical? How can I make sure that I'm investing and putting my money where my mouth is, quite literally, in those type of areas? So unbeknown to me, and again, you said this, you never saw yourself as a podcaster. If we told you that 10 years ago, I would never have imagined myself 10 years ago having these types of conversations.
Yeah.
But I'm always asking the question, what else can I be doing? I don't need to be perfect today, but let's just make sure I build on the knowledge of today to make sure tomorrow's a little bit better, not just for me, but for everyone who's impacted directly and indirectly by me. And that also, when I say everyone, I mean people, I mean communities, but I'm also meaning the trees next to me, or the garden, or the environment I'm living in as well. So how can I make sure everything around me is that +1 better moving forwards?
Spot on, you've got it. I mean, you probably know what's happening in the Amazon currently now with the whole deforestation thing. I mean, you know, the communities are crying out loud, and no one is actually paying attention to that. Mass agriculture is contributing to the deforestation. I always say, if we have kids we bring to the world, we must still think that there's a planet that they must still live in. You know, if the planet is in this state right now, imagine what it would be in 50 years down the line. You know, we could go back to the ice age. We could go back to a different age. But nature's shown us time and time again that it can become rebellious.
Yeah.
If its inhabitants are not going to be kind to it. So I think we owe her at least that much of a responsibility to actually rethink our relationship with nature, because nature's been great to us. Nature heals us. Nature gives us life. Nature gives us, in fact, nature is life. You know, to be honest, the chemistry of life, our true being, everything is connected to nature. So it only makes sense for us to actually have that perspective about nature.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's really about, we have to save the planet. We want this planet to be here. We don't want 60, 100 years down the line to be a pandemic-infested planet and to say, no, but we had coronavirus in 2021. What we have today is nothing. That's also the incorrect attitude. As much as you find people saying, but we had the Spanish flu in 1918, it still didn't make it right that we had a pandemic then, you know. So it's important how we really view the whole outlook globally when it comes to nature. I mean, Africa, for instance, is no different. We've got the same challenges. I mean, if you watch Seaspiracy on Netflix, it's no different in the coastal areas here in South Africa. It's a global thing. If you watch Cowspiracy, it's no different. It's a global phenomenon. But we must also be, and it's worrisome about, it's worrisome how we've normalized this behavior. I mean, but like you say, do it in kind. It's not going to be perfected overnight. And we also shouldn't come across as judgmental. We should just, you know, almost be like the planet's evangelists who are going to keep preaching out there.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Kate. Now, I want us to go back to what inspired your recent triumph. It's 24 hours on a bike, 3 world records. Firstly, what inspired it and the preparation? How did that come about? I mean, it's taking me 9 to 10 months to train for half Ironman. That is only going to be 8.5 hours. Here we're talking 24 hours, 1 full day. Tell us about that.
Sure. My idea started in 2017. I was a little lost. And this is why I coach people, by the way, because I think that we can solve today's crisis if we heal ourselves. We can heal the world, but we need to be healed in ourselves. So that's why I coach individuals in their mindset, not about processes, systems, and recycling ideas. Everyone's got great ideas, but I make sure that people are receptive to make the change. Because if we're in a state of fear, we're never going to think about the environment. So back in 2017, I was a little bit sad and broken myself, and I knew I needed something to heal me. So I'd just come off the back of being a world champion, having competed the following year in 5 world championships again around the world. I'd just sold my business for almost $1 million, and I was free. So to everyone outside looking in, I had made quite a success of myself. But inside, I didn't feel that. I'd built a pedestal. I'd put myself on the top of it. And having achieved my goals physically, I hadn't looked after myself emotionally or mentally or even spiritually. So I felt more and more alone and isolated from my friends and the world. So I wanted to set myself a challenge to reconnect to myself. And I always go to the physical challenges to do that, because you can't hide. When you run a marathon, you have to run a marathon. And if you don't stop, it's, you finish it and you get that physical success. But if you do stop, it's an obvious stop, and people can, again, as we said, lovingly hold us to account for that.
Yep.
So I knew I needed a big challenge. I didn't want to do another competition and compare myself to others. I was scrolling in the Guinness World Records, and I noticed that there was a lot of male world records in cycling and not as many women. And it got me thinking, because there was a male world record for furthest distance on a static bicycle in 24 hours, but no women's. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I used that world record to hold me account, to keep pushing myself and holding myself outside my comfort zone, but also start that conversation of, where is equality in our communities? Why do we see more men on television? Why do we see more white men in business as well, rather than a much more diverse spectrum which represents more equally the world? So I decided in 2017 to attempt that 24-hour record as a little statement to say, there's girls in the sport too. Please don't forget about us. And naively or ignorantly, depending how you want to package it, I assumed if I was the first to do it, any distance I did would be a record. So I didn't do a lot of training. I did about 7 or 8 weeks worth of training for a 24-hour record. And in VegFest in London, which is a huge vegan festival once a year in London, I put my bicycle in one of the hallways and I cycled for 24 hours in front of all the vegan festival, people coming in for 2 days celebrating and going to all the stalls. And I covered 290 miles, which is pretty good. But
290 miles.
Yeah. But Guinness said no. They said it wasn't far enough. So I
no, that's massive.
So it was really tough, because again, I had no training and I swore I'd never do it again. But obviously it's been in my mind for quite some time. So in 2020, just before lockdown was announced in the UK, I decided to reattempt it. And training started with just 30 minutes on the bike 3 times a week. I set up a little static bike in the corner of a room and pedaled 30 minutes. That grew from 30 minutes to an hour to 2 hours over months. And eventually the furthest distance I cycled before training was 8 hours. And so entering the world record attempt in May, because it should have been January, but I had to cancel because, again, lockdown Britain was in and out of lockdown, so we couldn't get the team together. So it was in May. So I had 16 months of training, as well as a failed attempt, because we couldn't do it. So mentally, I was a little bit, it was hard mentally to pull myself out again. And yeah, I sat on a bicycle for 24 hours, starting at 3 p.m. I chose full moon and I cycled outside. So I had the full moon behind me. It was the biggest moon of the year. I had over 20 volunteers to keep me awake, to make sure I was on track, to feed me. I didn't even stop for the bathroom. So number ones were done on the bike. Sorry to be so crude, but it was all about the competition. And I completed it. So I've cycled 433 miles in 24 hours. I broke the 1 hour world, 433. So I broke the 1 hour world record in the first hour, the 12-hour record in 12 hours, and then the 24-hour record after that. Because again, I've been questioned about my iron, being a woman, especially my iron, about my protein. And I went, if I can break the 1 hour record and then do 23 more, please never again ask me about my protein. I think that should be I don't take supplements. I take omega-3 only when racing, which is a vegan supplement. And I was like, please never ask me again about any deficiency at all. So it was a statement to say, we need more diversity in sport. We need more leaders. Here's me stepping up to make my little contribution. But also we can do this with compassion for the planet. And it was on a bamboo bike as well.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, what's my next moment of madness?
You've got a half Ironman. That is a great...
I could attempt that. But strange enough, about 2 months ago, I was sitting and I was thinking, there's Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually thinking that, has someone ever run up Mount Kilimanjaro? Not hike up, but run up. And it's something it's an idea that I'm toying with currently. I'm thinking of, if there's no one who's done it, to run up Kilimanjaro. But if there's someone who has done it, maybe try to attempt breaking the time in which they did it.
The first vegan.
Sorry?
You could be the first vegan to do it.
That's another one. Could be the first vegan, So I actually love this, because it's again those personal goals that you set for yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe, who knows, maybe I was the first person to train for a double marathon in 9 weeks. We just don't know. Maybe no one's done it before.
Yeah, it's amazing. Probably not, or probably yes. But
yeah, well, I must go to the Guinness Books of Records, and then who must try to make a reference there. If there's, but maybe it's too late now, because it was almost a year ago. There was in October last year.
You could do it again.
I'm definitely doing it this year. So it's going to be an annual thing. So I'm doing it again this year. It would have been, or maybe I should only train for 5 weeks and go and run it.
There's a vegan athlete from Wales called Mawethu who did 30 half Ironmen in 30 days. Obviously.
And I thought Rish Roll was insane for doing the Ultraman, and I think he did 5 Ironmans in 5 different countries in 5 different days, and I thought that was insane.
Yeah. So
I mean, we just there to break the records,
we live under this glass ceiling. I'm telling you, we are beyond. We have got so much more capabilities than we ever imagine. We can dig so much deeper and get through so much more than we give ourselves credit for. Our lives are magical. We need to start living like magical beings.
Yes. Yeah. No. I definitely agree with you. Kate. So what's the next moment of insanity?
Well, I'm actually next month I start training. I have given myself a month off after 400 miles on the bicycle to heal. So I'm attempting this. I've called it the Limitless Challenge. So this comprises cycling from the Pacific to the Atlantic coast of the UK, of America, 3,000 miles on the bike.
Sure.
2 months after that, swim the English Channel, which is 21 miles, maybe more depending on the currents. And then I will be moving to Nepal, and I can imagine you can guess what's coming, because I want to attempt to summit Everest. And all of this will be done within 10 months, and it would be a world's first. So that is hugely exciting and also very scary, but I love it. Fear means I care, so I'm training for that.
And whilst doing it all, you're feeding into what keeps your soul burning. That's the thing. You're feeding into Kate, who Kate is. Kate Strong. You actually have got a very a great surname, because the surname is Strong.
Yep. Yeah, I was.
And you are definitely very strong, Kate.
Well, thank you.
No, definitely, yeah, definitely. So hopefully one day you'll come and do the Ironmans here in South Africa. We've got the main ones is the Durban, East London, and Port Elizabeth. Yeah, hopefully one day I'll see you at the finish line. Who knows? Maybe the full one or even the 70.3 one. Yeah, no, but no, definitely, yeah, no. I'll definitely keep you up to date with my preparations. My injury is almost it's getting there, so hopefully I'll be back at training. Thank you very much, Kate, for your time. We really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. It's been an amazing show. Truly appreciate it. This is a conversation I truly love having. It's close to my heart. Let's keep fighting for the planet. Let's keep trying by all means to be as ethical as we can. Let's inspire people that this is a lifestyle you can consider. Obviously not by force, but let's have a different conversation, because there's a lot of stereotypes. I mean, you've not died of protein deficiency after cycling almost 700 kilometers.
Wow.
In 24 hours. I mean, that's quite a distance. Almost 700 kilometers in one day. That's amazing. That's remarkable. I mean, the most I've done in one day was 200 kilometers.
Which is impressive. Yeah. So thank you very much.
That's the most I've done. Thanks a lot, Kate. Keep well, and we definitely will have other conversations of this nature. Keep well. Peace and love. Thank you.
You too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks. Yeah, there was three world record holder, Kate Strong, philanthropist, ethical and leadership business coach, and triathlon world champion. Thanks a lot. This is Plant Power with Mawethu. We're bowing out. This is at Your Media. Hashtag where you are. Your Media, hashtag where you are. Peace and love. Thanks.
Your Media, where you are. We can only put out what we put in. Plant Power with Mawethu will show you the chemistry of life through food that goes from the ground to the body.